you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have actually so many on the call, which is nice. So what we wanted to do is give you a bit of a background about why we developed the system in the first place, and then kind of like do the journey from there to now. We had an increased number of applications, and that was all managed kind of manually, so with a series of Excel spreadsheets, lots of paperwork. So we wanted to have a more efficient and secure way to not only manage the process for the applicants themselves, but also for the charity. So also, with an increasing number of applications, it was hard to retain a lot of information in your own mind, and it's obviously not a really good solution for people that working in teams, that being able to kind of have contingency plans for groups of people. So we wanted a system that not only improved the application process, but linked into the CRM. So prior to that, applications would be electronic via an email, Word attachment, or they would be in the post. So we would send them out, and they would have to return that with bank statements covering the last 3 months. Obviously, this would incur some postal costs for us and a wait time for both us and the applicants themselves. Often we found that the applications were incomplete because it's a manual process where people were filling out an application form. If they didn't want to include information, they just sort of didn't. So then that would mean that we would have to ask those questions or go back and wait for the information to go backwards and forwards. So the application was a bit more thorough. We still have a process now and have had a process to support people that may have difficulties, but this is generally speaking the kind of usual, the average person that was able to manage the process as it was. So when we had the application form back into the office, we would log it, we would scan it in, and then we would redact some information and scan it in again, so that when we sent the application for consideration by the trustees, they had the second version with the redacted information to maintain confidentiality. So 2 versions of the application was kept on the system. We, at that time, used to consider applications bi-monthly as part of the board meeting. So we would have the conversation, the application, but then retain that until applications were considered altogether. So once I received the application, I would make contact with them. This is usually via email. We would then arrange a time to speak, and I would go through that. We would speak to each other about what the process was. I don't know if there's an echo or not. Hopefully not. So we would have a conversation, and I would speak to them about the type of support that we offer, what their issues were, and following that, I would write up some notes, which is another type of information that we would need in order for the trustees to make a decision. So this was all effectively separate systems that we were using in order to manage the one application. And then I would have to sort of manually record which part of the journey the application was. So if it had gone to a meeting, if it was ratified out of a meeting, or had been decided, and where we're at the process. Once the decision was made at the meeting, I would then have to go back to the applicant and make them aware of what the outcome was, and then we would separately organise the grant decision, and then I would have to record in another spreadsheet what the decision was, what the amount was, and so in terms of our reporting and analytics and trying to understand our impacts, that was all done in quite a labour-intensive way. Any questions so far? Great. Okay, so I'll move on to the next section, which is what we implemented, the solution that we have now. So from the applicant point of view, it should be similar, if not the same, but it's much more streamlined in that they do more of the work up front. So there's a request help button on our website, so it's open access, available at all times. That will bring you up to some pre-eligibility questions. It will ask you if you're a dental student, dentist, or a dependent. if you live in the UK, and if you're in financial hardship, which is unable to manage your essential living costs and or have little or no access to savings. So once people have answered those questions, obviously that can filter out the people that don't meet our criteria because they're not one of those things. And then it also brings up the relevant application form for them. So they would, if you're a student, they would have the student application form, dentist, the dentist one. And even though for the most part the applications are the same, some of those questions are tweaked so that the student question obviously asks about university information, the dentist question will ask them about registration and employment history, that kind of thing. So there is some kind of minor adjustments each one, so it makes the content more relevant to them. Once that comes in, I get an automatic notification into my inbox to say there's an application for me to consider. I would look at it, make sure the information is correct, and then I would send them an email through the system to say that we've received it and can they let me know when it would be convenient to talk to them about it. Also, as part of the system, they can't submit the application without the supporting evidence attached. So we don't have any of that kind of backwards and forwards, making sure that they've uploaded their bank details or sent the right supporting evidence. It can't be done without that included. However, we do have the ability for this version to turn it off if we think that someone might struggle, although we've also got guidance notes about how people might go about that, and there's contact us information in each section so that people can contact us or look it up if they need or would struggle with it. So also, what's interesting about this version of the form, it sort of tries to get away with some of the things that I mentioned before about how applications ask for the correct information in the right way, and some of the information is mandatory, so people aren't then avoiding some questions which may affect their eligibility, and that doesn't mean we have to kind of go backwards and forwards, which obviously makes it more streamlined for both us and for them. The application form is, they can create their own password. We don't have access to that, so it's secure for them, so they can save it and resume later as they go along. So they don't need to do it all in one go. It's kind of not time limited. They can go back and look the information up and then submit it when they're comfortable. When I've got it, arranged a time to speak with them and kind of assessed it internally. Then there's a section as part of the form where I can add my notes and summaries and recommendations. So that all retains the same information in the one place. And when I make the application available for the trustees to consider, they can see all that. They can see the supporting evidence, which for me is a kind of budget check to help verify the financial information. And I can send them a link, make it available for them to see, hyperlink to the right application form, and they've got all the information together in the same place. The trustees have different permissions than the staff do. So the application information they see, but they don't see the supporting evidence, and they don't see anything relating to their personal information, so that name, addresses, email addresses, that kind of thing. So we don't have to then go backwards and forwards with kind of redacting information. That's kind of all built into the system. It's also, they only see the applications once it's available, once I've done my work. So there's not that kind of hybrid system where some are in the system, not been reviewed, not looked at where we're at. So it's kind of clear from both parties who needs to do what at what point. So equally, we have applications that are available. We have applicants that apply more than once. So if that person has applied before, either within the same year or in previous years, the new version of the application is attached to their contact reference information, and we can see the kind of history and the journey. So if anybody looking up, the new person can go online and can see that they've applied before and what the decision was and what the outcome was, and they can kind of, so there's a proper kind of trails for that. The trustees, when they're looking at the application, need to provide feedback so that there's an audit trail. So we know, I know I've got the confidence to go back to the applicant and let them to have a decision. we have 4 trustees that consider applications, and of that I need 3 to have the authority to let them know what that is. So there's a whole feedback section, and they can click yes or no and then the amount, so that I'm clear and confident in the decision that they're making, but also they can see each other's. So the other trustees can see what someone might have agreed to or not agreed to. And then we use the chatter section if we want to make a discussion or recommendation about the application, but that doesn't affect knowing what the decision is. So I know someone said yes, we've agreed to this amount, but also I've got a comment about, have you recommended that they speak to this organisation, or my decision's based on this information. So it's sort of separating out the discussion from the decision, which I thought was one of the areas that we were having difficulty with before. So that kind of gives a clear audit trail. So that also means whenever someone's applied, anything that has been filled in can be reported on. So we have the dashboard at the beginning, which then I can build reports on. We have an automated system that produces board reports, which we give quarterly to the trustees, rather than me trying to understand at which point the wider board have understood the decision. It's all kind of click a button and it's relevant to that meeting. So it just brings it all through, press a button, produce the report, and then that's all available for us. Some of the information that's in that report is available through the dashboard, which is the home screen that we all use, and that shows not personal information but the summary of applications to date for this calendar year, or you can go back and do previous years. You can change the timeline, and that brings out like how many applications have had that month, how many have been supported or not, what the average age is, what the most common reason for them applying is. So that allows us to kind of start building our outcomes and understand the impact, and also see trends as well, which helps us have a better, clearer, actual visual idea of our system, rather than lots of different bits of information, bits of paperwork, bits of spreadsheets. So it's all kind of comprehensive. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Have I done that within my allocated 8 minutes?
Yeah, I think you definitely have. Thank you so much, Laura. No, and I'm sure there's lots of questions that will be raised. I just wanted to make sure that we have enough time for this demo. And bear with me 1 second, because I just want to switch screens. I do hope that everyone is able to see this screen. Can you see? Yep. Okay, brilliant. So as I will go through this very, very quickly, just to ensure that everybody is aware of the journey as you've just explained, Laura. So thank you for that. I just wanted to point out that you can access these forms that have been embedded into your website, as you've said. We've got the eligibility form, as you've mentioned already, and of course this is the go no go. So again, if somebody's not eligible, you'll be able to see that the form says unfortunately you're not, but they'll be able to be signposted somewhere else, and these are conditional forms. Questions, beg your pardon. The application form itself is very detailed, and as you said, you've got these required fields. We've also got, again, conditional fields, where if the answer is yes or no, then you can have these additional fields as well to make sure that you really deep dive into the person's personal circumstances, and the form's applicable only if the questions are applicable. We also then know that, so this would be the user's journey, the applicant's journey, beg your pardon. So they would obviously go on site, online, and actually fill this form in. And then, as Laura has explained, once this has been completed and all the documentation has been uploaded, Laura then will see this list, which is actually applications new this week. And again, she will get a notification. She clicks in, so you can see the status here. So if some have already been considered, if a colleague, for example, has already seen an application come in, then you know which ones to be seen to and which aren't. If I just click into Gerald Jones, for example, this is a new grant application. And again, all the detail of this person, if you click onto the contact name, you'll go deep diving into their address details. But everything is actually there available to see. And then again, of course, you have this application feedback section here, which once the trustees have been notified, as Laura said, at the bottom here, if I just scroll down, so all the answers that have been completed on the form will be populated straight into Salesforce. So it's very seamless. It goes straight down, and then you would of course have the fields that you was talking about, Laura, here, your administrator's recommendation. Once that's been completed, Laura then changes this status right at the top here. This is the pathway. Again, all of this can be customized to be considered, mark that as current status, and then the trustees get a notification asking them to submit their application feedback as well. And the total number of yeses and total number of nos, as each person completes that that detail. So if I just go back into a grant application and I go to say Rafferty, let's go with Rafferty, you can actually see number of yeses, number of no's. So this is all feedback from people within the trustees group. Of course, this is a demo org, but yes, this will be people that are able to chat amongst themselves, trustees especially, and ask questions, maybe get some more information, and then ultimately give their decision. And this is tallied up, and all of the detail will be fed back to Laura. And that's when she will then contact them, as she said, to ensure that the person is aware of whether they're granted or not. This is where, if they are approved, then a grant is actually made. And if I just quickly click into here, this is the grant, and all the information. I mean, this is very basic, but you can have lots more detailed information about all of the relevant fields that you'd need, sort of grant payments, how many payments they've received. Laura, I think you already mentioned that if there's been previous grants paid out already, that would all be back on the contact, so it would have that detail there. So it's very, very easy to use process, and this is all the information that Laura would need to make that decision. I just want to quickly show you, I do apologize, but I can see that the okay, beg your pardon, so this is the chatter also as well. It's very similar to a messaging service, but as you will see, if people have questions and they want to find a little bit more about it, they mention it on the record, and then if I go back into that record here, all on the chatter screen, it will actually bring you back in, so you know exactly which application you're talking about. So it's all very seamless, and it's all integrated very very what's the word I'm looking for? It's very user friendly. So once you have all that detail, as a trustee, if you know that you've been notified, and I can see that it's actually logged me out for security reasons, so I'm just going to show you, ignore this bit, but I have to go back into the back end because I need to actually log in as a trustee, and once I'm able to do that, I can show you from a trustee's perspective how it actually looks, and how Laura mentioned in terms of what the trustees can see and what they can't. So you just saw that information before. So this is the home screen for the trustees. Again, they won't be able to see any identifiable details other than just the applications to be considered. So if I'm a trustee and I know that, right, these ones are all to be considered, so I need to give my feedback as to whether this person should be supported or not, I can go in and see all these details. There's no identifiable information other than the contact initials. I go ahead and give my feedback and say yes or no, this person should be helped. If I said yes, and I just said some numbers, it should be support, yes, and I click on save. Again, now the numbers tallied up, and based upon that information, Laura can then say to this person, yes, you are successful, unfortunately not. So that essentially is the detail. As I said, there's lots more detail that we can go into, but I just wanted to make sure everyone's got a good overview of what Salesforce actually looks like and how seamless it is in terms of any highlighted information here. You can actually click into it and you've got that extra deep dive detail that you can go into. So I'm very aware of the time, and I do want to open up the floor now to any questions, just to make sure that everybody is able to ask. So I'm going to unmute everybody. And again, do we have any questions, Laura, sorry, Renata, in the chat so far? No? Okay, brilliant. So let me just unmute everybody. So I'm going to allow mics. If you do want your cameras on as well, please let me know. I'll allow the cameras, but feel free to turn that off. So I'm going to just allow the cameras now. But if you do want to have your camera turned off, please feel free to not share your camera. We don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead and allow for cameras as well, just so we can see your lovely faces. Okay, so I can see some hands up.
Yeah, there is also a question.
Okay, brilliant. So Maureen, I can see your hands up. If you want to just come through and say hi.
Right, hi. During we're on now, where the trustees make a decision, if they do make comments, can you see the comments as well?
You can do, yes. It actually would show it for a little bit of a glitch. It's not coming up here, but all the details specific to this record, for example, all the detail would be coming up specifically to this record. So the conversation could be checked before making a decision if necessary. So all that detail would be on this record as well.
Yeah. And so if the trustees speak to each other, can Laura see that as well?
Yes, yes. So all of that detail would be in the chatter feed. So I'll just go back to there again. And again, all of it would be related to a specific record. And then you could comment underneath that to say, yes, I agree. And then if you comment there, then again, all of that would be in that feed as well. So all the information would be there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Renata, you said there was another question?
Yeah, there are some on the chat from Louise Allet. There is a question. So how much did you customize? That is the first question.
In terms of customize, oh, let me just unmute. Oh, Bisham as well, you're able to come through. That's our delivery director as well. Yeah. Do you want to say a little bit about the customization, Bisham, or do you want me to?
Well, of course, I can add something here. So, Lewis, we have configured it. So whatever has been shown on the screen, everything is running on the Salesforce features, and it is all the configured part because you might need a different values for the status. I would say this is 90% out of the box and only 10% is the customization you have on the screen. Does it answer your question?
Yes, thank you. That is, I mean, that's great. So it's the first time I've seen Salesforce. So they really have got a very, very strong grant functionality already embedded within it, which is great.
Yeah. So that is what we do in general. We maximize the out of the box functionality. That is what we call configuration. And after that, we do the customization. So it would be 90 and 10 in this scenario.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Amazing. A second question is from Joanna. She's asking, just for context, how many grants per week, month do you process?
Oh, I'll let you answer that, Laura.
On average, it's probably about 10. That obviously changed depending on the time of year. So in lockdown, it was about 4 times that. So it was amazing we had this system because it was able to process, and we can logically work our way through all the different applications at any given time. Obviously things have calmed down a lot more, but we're also dealing with kind of two almost 3 times more per year than we did pre-lockdown, so application numbers have gone up. So yeah, usually it's about kind of 10 a week, but some of those people would be new to us, and some are kind of repeat applicants because we don't say no once someone has applied. It's not like we assess them as and when, depending on their current circumstances. So it's not like once they've had a grant, that's kind of it. So it's an ongoing support.
Thank you, Laura. So just before any other questions, because we do want to hear from our lovely Roz, who is the chairman of BDA, Benevolent Fund, and we just wanted to hear from your perspective, Roz, some of the real benefits as a trustee in terms of how this system has really helped your user experience as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone who calls me our lovely Roz is clearly going to go down well in my books. Yeah, obviously my comments are as a trustee, but also as a chairman, and I've got a slide if you could pop it up, or if you could pop it up, that would be good. I'm really just going to concentrate my comments around 3 major points which are up there now, and I'm not including the sorts of things that Laura has already flagged up unless they're relevant to me. So firstly, information security and confidentiality. One of my concerns as chairman was about how much paper was floating around. Our board of trustees is made up from individuals across the UK. People travelled long distances to meetings with large piles of paper. There was the issue about sending paper out through the post. the safety of that, the storage of that, the storage of the paper by individuals once they had finished with it. So getting rid of the paper, in my view, took risk out of the system. It also stopped me having to lug all this stuff around, to be frank. So that was a real benefit. The confidentiality, Laura's referred to the fact, and as Aisha, about the redaction, but I do feel that the level of confidentiality we get with Salesforce is better than a redacted system, because redacted systems are entirely reliant on people identifying the bits that need redacting. This system is automated, and I feel that the level of confidentiality and the level of impartiality that trustees now get is really improved. The last thing is the benefits around information in having everything in one place, which has been referred to already, so that I know whatever I want or need is within the system. It isn't within other different places that I've got to search for it. So it's easily brought together for us. Moving on to accessibility and timeliness, as you've heard, when there's an application for me to consider, I get an email into my routine box that just says, there is an application to consider, this is the hyperlink, etc., etc. So I don't have to look for these, I don't have to worry about them, they will come in when they are ready, and I note that on my phone or whatever and think I need to do that. I can access Salesforce through my phone, I can access it on my iPad, or I can choose to access it on my laptop. Invariably, I access it on a secure Wi-Fi on my phone or on my iPad, and it's so easy, and that makes it really quick and really easy to do. So in terms of responsiveness, it's absolutely up there. Chatter allows me to see what my colleagues are saying, even though we're across the UK. The four of us can see who's approved what, who's asked questions, who's made a query, and we can follow that conversation. And we can talk to each other about it, or say, oh, Bill's raised a great point there, I hadn't thought about that, have we thought about doing this? So that, and it's logged. So as far as I'm, as a chairman, moving into my chairman role now, being assured that we've really got a great audit trail, should everyone ever be challenging about what we've done, then that gives me confidence to know that all of that is recorded, that Laura can see it, and that anybody who queried it, we can demonstrate the probity around it. Certainly miles more less admin for Laura, which is great as a trustee for me, because she can do other things with that time. She's probably thinking, oh, glory. But the reality is that the system took a lot of her time previously, and now that's allowed us to think more widely about how we use our team. I think the clarity trustees get about as well, about when they approve something, it is very clear. You have to say yes. There is only two choices at the end of the day post the discussion. It's yes or no, and then how much. So there's no query looking back in minutes about who said what, did they really approve that, was I saying 300 and he was saying 700. There's none of that, because the clarity is there. And obviously all the fact that this is so accessible, so quick and easy, means that our timeliness in responding to our applicants is much better. One of the things that is important to me as a trustee is that people who need us, who need help, get that in a timely fashion and get that quickly if they need it. And this system allows us to really deal things really quickly. And for instance, Laura, if she's seen that two of us have been on and maybe not the third, she can send us another quick email saying, can I just remind you that application 19 or 2019's up there, could you just have a quick look, please? So I feel that we're giving better service to the people who need us. Lastly, you saw Aisha put up the issue around the data and KPIs. that are available to us. I can look at those anytime. And one of the things I find as an advantage is because I talk about our work, because I'm quite well known in the industry, people will often ask me, and I literally get my phone out, right, well, we've had X number of applications this month. The trend that I talked about, you know, I've seen happening over the next last few months, oh, look, that's still continuing. Our average age is coming down of applicants. So it gives me a real hands-on and really quite impressive to the people who are donors that we actually know that information off our phones. We can talk about it with confidence, and it's not requiring the office yet again. Ros is going out and she wants an update on the numbers. Doesn't need to be done. So yeah, I'm a real convert. You can hear that. It's made my life easier. I think it's made us more efficient. I think it's improved the experience for our users. And I think in terms of our governance functions, it's certainly added value too. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ros. And we do have a quotation from one of your colleagues and trustees here, from Dr. Alex Gormley. I'll of course give you time to read that. But I did want to get back to some questions because I know that people have hands up. Kate P, do you have a question, please?
Yeah, you spoke about how Salesforce obviously prefers electronic applications, but can you still deal with paper applications? Because obviously a lot of older beneficiaries obviously like to write it down and maybe not be tech savvy as much.
Yeah, so what we do is we post out an application and then we have to input it on their behalf, because it makes sense that all the application data is in the one system, because otherwise that would not count in terms of our overall analytics. So and we also have the option to have the application form done, but not the upload section for bank details, if people might struggle with that. So they can still do the form, not maybe they'll post in their bank statements, and then we can kind of scan that in and upload it on their behalf. So, but the majority of our application, it was a worry when we first sort of implemented it, but I think we've had to do it twice in like nearly 3 years. Obviously maybe our profile of applications are different, but it's something that we would just do in the office, and then because we're familiar with the information anyway, it's not that difficult to input it.
And I think Lewis Alex has a question.
Another question from me, thank you. I was just wondering, when people are applying online, will the system detect if somebody's a previous applicant, or is it likely to overwrite, or do you have to manually kind of join them together, or does it suggest that they've got similar data surrounding their profile and ask you if you want to merge them? Or
so from the applicant point of view, they have to do it all over again. It's a new application. But the system from the database point of view knows that they've applied before if their name and address and email address are the same, or at least 2 out of those 3. So sometimes say if someone's moved, then it'll like throw a query up to say, is this the same person? Or is this a duplicate record? But by and large, that individual will have to do the whole process again. But it's not necessarily too time intensive. And what we've not mentioned is the form side. Is what I can do is reopen a previous application so that they can have the older version that they've done and then update it with newer information. And once they submit it, that does become a new application. So every time you press submit, it's a new request. So there is an option for that if there was a quick tweak that needed to be made or something was wrong.
Okay, and so just to clarify, so you have sort of a client profile, and then you have different sort of cases for each grant application that sit underneath that particular individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. All right.
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
that person is a contact. They're a customer contact kind of person, and then it's the request that goes alongside that for each time they've done it. And so it's kind of supporting their main information, which is the contact information.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Kate, did you have another question, or was that your hand still up? I wasn't sure. Okay, Joanna, please come forward.
Thank you. I think this might be more for you, Aisha. Following on from what Laura was just saying, would it be possible to build it so that the applicant could have a single sign-on point, so that a repeat application didn't require all that core data to be re-entered for each individual application? And also, sort of as a follow-on, would there be a possibility for them to have their own insight into the system, so they could see, for example, where they are in the process? You know, this is using your process, this is with staff, or this is with trustees. Is that a functionality that ShoNet would be able to implement?
So the short answer is yes, there's definitely scope to do that. Salesforce offers a number of different features and functionality to be able to assist with all of those needs. Bisham, I think you would definitely be able to add on to that, just to give a little bit more clarity.
Of course. So, Joanna, definitely we can do that. It really depends that what kind of experience we want to enable for the end users. And based upon that, our experience and our vision, we need to select the right product and the right licenses within the Salesforce platform. So like, since as our this webinar says for the smaller organizations, so that has not been part of our demonstration, but that is possible and that we have done it for multiple times.
I would just add on to that though, because we have majority of the people apply once, but we do have people that apply over and over again. It's quite information to cross-reference what their new information is with their old one. And if I reopened an application, they've just basically not really changed anything. So we have got the two systems. They are applying, we can reopen it, but sometimes that kind of ability to make them complete the information brings up questions. And also we speak to everybody, so that I do that kind of lets them know where they are as part of the process. But obviously if you've got hundreds and thousands of applications, that's not possible. But then that's part of our kind of managing expectations of the journey that they're on. They'll know, I'll tell them the application is submitted today, you'll hear back by this point, so they'll have an idea.
Thank you.
Joanna, are there any more questions at all?
Yes.
Yeah, we have
Sorry.
some. No, that's fine.
Sharon's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Sharon.
Hi. I have put this in the chat, but as there were no more people asking questions, I thought I would. This is for Laura. I guess the first part of the question is, can people put in more than one lot of bank statements? And do you have any problems with them only putting in one lot of bank statements and it doesn't have all the information on it?
Yes, so there's not a limit to the number of files that someone can upload. So obviously if it's bank statements for all their accounts and they've got 10 accounts, they'll have to, for the last 3 months, they'll have to upload lots of different files. Obviously not everybody does that because we know what people are like. So, but that's the work that we do, which is cross-referencing that information. And we'll say, as part of the conversation I've had with them, oh, you've only uploaded this bank statement and you're making payments to yourself in a different account, so can you then send that? So then I'll ask them to forward that on and I'll upload that on their behalf. So it's just the nature of individuals being who they are. Like we can't see into the bank and their paperwork at home and be like, haven't done it all. So there is that element, but that's part of the reasons why we have those conversations. And I think you asked a question about the notifications of the cases for the trustees. Yes, I basically send them a prompt to say this application is ready, this is my recommendation, can you consider it, and hyperlink in the one that they need to. There is a functionality that you can turn the ad hoc option off and you can do a report which sends it, say, weekly or monthly, depending on your cases. We decided not to do that because of how we want to work as and when they come in, so it's a bit more timely. But obviously if you've got hundreds of applications or you're linking them to only be discussed at a board meeting, then you could do it all in one go, and then the trustees would have to look at them in a kind of in a line and one after the other. But so that was something we talked about at the beginning, that I know that's a functionality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a question from Sylvia. She asked, how many applications a month do you get? Average, please.
I think I have asked that. That was usually about 10 or so.
Sorry, is it 10 a week or 10 a month?
A month.
10 a month. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it varies. As some months are busier than others. Usually the summer tends to be quieter. But we've had 85 applications this year.
Amazing. Okay. Catherine also asked, is this using free not-for-profit licenses from Salesforce?
Yes, to answer the question. Yes, it is. So I'm just aware of time. Yeah, I was going to say we've got 1 minute left. So just wanted to say thank you so much. I do hope that this has been informative for everybody. We do have a link to the additional video that's available to give you a little bit more insight into managing grants. We also have a feedback survey that we would love for you to be very quickly filled in, just to ensure that we can continuously improve our webinars as we deliver them. And of course, if you do need any more information, if you do have any requests for any consultation, or if you just want to just find out a little bit more about what's possible for your particular business needs, feel free to give us a call or of course an email. We can arrange that for yourselves. Thank you so much to our very informative guest speakers today, Laura and Roz. We very much appreciate your time, and of course to all of you lovely registrants as well that have turned up today. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you, and we hopefully will hear from you in the future. So thank you all, and we do hope you've enjoyed today. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
And have a lovely afternoon.
Bye.